welcome back to Mumu Dylan, my channel. You probably know that since I'm recording a video onto my channel. But today's video is gonna be about making your game look better. Anyways, let's get right into this. So we've all made a game before and then just had a very simple with flat textures, there's brush made assets, and really just so that you can test the game. But the stuff doesn't really look very professional. In this case, we're using an example of a night at the mall, or what was then called just Scary. We're going to be using this so that you can see how you can make your game look better using the vector tools in Scratch. We're gonna start with the costume of the room. As you can see, it's very flat. It's just a few boxes. It really doesn't look crazy. So what we can do instead is we can give it some depth using gradients as well as just making the shapes look better. I'm gonna create a new costume. We've all seen, or used these kinds of costumes. It was made by Scratch already, but you might be wondering, how do they make all these crazy textures? Because the only shapes you can actually draw are simple rectangles and ellipses, as well as just lines, or just drawing shapes like this. But that's really, it seems, all you can do. But actually, all of these shapes are made from circles and rectangles because they use a special tool right here called Reshape. If I click on one of these, you can see it has all these little points here. Each point can either be a sharp point or it can be a curved point. So you can see this is a sharp point and there is no curve to it. But this one right here, this is rounded, and you can see it has these little parts right here. And when you move them around, it warps the shape a bit depending on how you have it. So what we can do is we can use those in our own parts. Let's start with this room. Let's take this same wall texture, and then if we simply draw out a shape, we're gonna have it till it goes towards the center. See, now it's still just a rectangle, just like the other one. But if we use the Reshape tool, we can grab it. We can also use Shift to keep it locked to a point. And then, let's say you don't see the bottom, but now we can take this, we can copy and paste it, and then we can simply grab it, take it over here, and just flip it horizontally. We can also just give it a quick background. If these edge parts are usually not seen, and then I can just take this and then I can send this to the back layer. Then we have a nice looking room if you look at it from a certain perspective. And we can try looking at it right now. And if we test this, see lines right here on the side, looking a lot nicer and more three-dimensional. The next thing we can do is add these doors. We can simply, again, instead use a black texture, draw out where we want them, and then we can just have it and adjust it. We can make it just a bit taller, and then we have ourselves a door. What you also need to keep into account is also just the idea of perspective. If it's closer or farther, the size of it really does matter to make it look better. So now I have this door, but you know how a wall isn't paper thin like this. We can add a bit of depth right here. We can do that by making a bit more complicated of a shape. If I take the same color as this wall, and then grab this, just drag it down, and then I'll use the Reshape tool, drag it down until it's like that. then it looks like, if you look at it from a certain way, if I just adjust this a little bit more, it looks like there's a wall that goes straight in. And we can do a bit more adjusting and make that look better just by drawing another rectangle. So we draw around the shape we want, and then we can adjust it from there. You can also delete points and change the shape a bit. And bam, that looks a lot better. You can be polished up a bit more, but we're spending a bit much time on this door. So the next thing that is really useful is gradients. So if you've played around with designing at all in Scratch, you've learned that when you mess with the color, you can use one of these gradients, either horizontally, vertically, or have it radiate like this. What we're going to do here is we're going to simply add a side-to-side texture. To make this middle part look like it's farther away, we're going to make it a bit darker. So if we click on this, you can see now that we have that. And we can actually, if we take this side and have it be the same color, doesn't look like we changed it much, but then we can simply change the darkness. I recommend using the little eyedrop here and then clicking on that part as then you can have it just be a darker shade of the already existing color. If I do that, then it looks a lot more 3D. And then we can also do it with these parts. We can take that and then have this side be just what the texture was over here so it matches, but then have this inner part be a lot darker so it looks like it's fading into the black. This also helps fix how it looks a bit. Now that looks a lot more like an ominous hallway than whatever these two black boxes were. And if we look at it now, you see that looks a lot more ominous than it was. Another thing you can do is when designing something a bit more organic, instead of using rectangles, you can use circles. I'm going to use this guy right here as example. Right now, this is a spooky game, so when he jump scares, he's just a smiley face that comes and then just says, I am a placeholder. But we are going to change that. So what I like to do for these is I just paint and do costume and just use this to model all the parts for the guy. If it's using something else where he's in multiple positions, modeling each part allows you to be able to copy and paste it into what you need, so then you can adjust it later on. But in this case, I'm gonna just make a simple guy. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, once I figured out what he's gonna look like, so right now it's just in an oval shape. You can see here it has these parts right here. I'm gonna give him a bit of a chin. I'm gonna have him look straight towards the camera, this case. I'm gonna make him look like he hasn't eaten in a while, just to give it a bit more spookiness. Let's give him some crazy hair. I'm gonna take a bit brighter. Also saturation to give it desaturate this a bit. Just give it a lighter color. Then I'm gonna just give him some hair. I'm gonna give him some crazy looking hair. I'm also gonna get rid of the outline. I'm gonna just plop this on his head and then do a bit of reshaping. First off, I'm gonna make his head be a bit more like that, and then I'm gonna change these to pointed, so now he's kind of getting a shape of his hair. And then I'm just gonna have these parts stick out, give him a bit of a weird looking shape, and make sure that it matches his head like a hair would. And now that we got him some crazy hair, we can model him some eyes. I take this, and I think I'm gonna give it a nice red look. Give it. So I'm gonna have it like this, but I'm gonna zoom in a bit on that, and I'm gonna model it with some different eyes. Gonna give it a bit more of a pointed look on the center part, make it a bit more narrowed. Then I'm gonna give him his color part of the eye. I forgot what it's called, and I think I'm just gonna give it a bit more of an orange color. I'm gonna hold shift to get a perfect circle, and then I'm going. A tip is not to use the drawing tool and instead try and just keep using these shapes, unless it is for time purposes. Oops. So I'm just gonna give this a nice black look for the pupil. I'm gonna have it be a square, but then I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm gonna make that pointed. Then I'm gonna give it some curve. Make that pointed, that right there, and now he has a bit more of a snake eye looking right at us. Then I'm gonna use some lines on the edges just to give it a bit of a cracked one and blood vessel-y look. Then I can simply zoom back out and I can group it. This is very, very useful because it makes it a lot easier to drag the stuff. Then I'm just gonna duplicate it, slide it over here, and flip it vertically, and now we got a lot creepier looking of a guy. It takes some practice and work. But eventually you can get a nice looking character or design. If it's scary like this guy's design, then you can use more darker color palette. It's all kind of being more just artistic with how you want your character to look. That's all I have to say for today, but that's all I will model for this video. But now you got a better idea of just how you can make your project look even better with the ability to make good looking designs. Thank you for watching, and that'll be see you later.